Meeting of the Clay County Commission to order. Tonight's invocation will be Teresa Leeming. I think you know the drill, so if you'd just like to proceed. By the way, for anyone who wishes to speak to the commission later on tonight, as you come up and that time is appropriate, please make sure the green light is on the microphone. Speak into the microphone, tell us your name, and then proceed with your comments. With that, please proceed.
Heavenly Father, I ask you to bless our commissioners with favor and grace, wisdom and insight. Lead and guide them in the way they should go to make Clay County, Missouri a great place to live, learn, work, and play. Strengthen them as they lead with vision and virtue. I thank you for all of your provisions. In Jesus' name, amen.
Commissioner Lawson, I think you wish to be recognized. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me, yeah, I didn't get over that screen yet. There you are.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask us to pause for a moment of silence, and I'd like us to remember a couple of people. George Brock, who is our recorder, Sandy Brock's husband, passed away, a battle with cancer, and our dear Donna, who is our facilities director, lost her mom, Grace Hobbs. So if we could bow for just a moment of silence and remember them in prayer. Please help them and protect them. Thank you very much.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte.
Here.
Commissioner Withington. Here. Commissioner Lawson. Here. Commissioner Wagner. Here. Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Thompson. Here. Commissioner Carpenter. Here.
That brings us, Commissioner Withington, are you seeking recognition?
Yeah, I had sent a message to everybody before. I was going to also ask to do a moment of silence for them, but also for Dr. Tom Cummings, who passed away today. I wanted to include him in the moment of silence. I hit my button and he never called off.
Well, we've gone through that part of the agenda, so we will now go to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for approval of this evening's agenda?
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion has been made for the approval of this evening's agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, you're recognized to close. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Wagner. Aye. Commissioner Thompson. Yes. Commissioner Carpenter. Yes. Commissioner Withington. Yes. Commissioner Lawson. Commissioner Lawson? Yes. Oh, motion passes 5-0.
On, thank you. It always goes off on me. I think there's a message there. Anyway, if you would like to make those comments at the time those subjects are raised, that might be the most effective time. Is there anyone here who would like to make a comment on any subject whatsoever? A member of the public who'd like to make comment? Seeing none. That brings us to our consent agenda. Administrator?
The consent agenda allows the Commission to act upon items considered to be routine and approved in one motion. These may include items that have been reviewed by the Commission in a prior session. There will be no separate discussion unless a commissioner requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. There are 8 items on the consent agenda this evening. The first item is Resolution 2025-33, approving invoice payments for Clay County for the period of January 18th through January 24th. There are 141 invoices totaling $555,238.66. Resolution 2025-31 is approve and sign the 2024 Financial Statements Audit Engagement Letter with Hood and Associates. Resolution 2025-35 is approve and sign a lease agreement for 3 dump trucks from Nextran Truck Centers and Service Contract with MAC. Ordinance 2025, Ordinance 03 is the reappropriate and revise the adopted budget for the current year for administration of the second half of funds totaling $30,262 for the Domestic Relations Resolution Grant Award. 2024 Ordinance 04 is reappropriate and revise the adopted budget of the current year, approval of the second half of the 2025 fiscal year Division of Youth Services grant monies in the amount of $17,500. 2025 Ordinance 05 is reappropriate and revise the adopted budget of the current year, approval of the second half of the OCSA grant monies in the amount of $500 for Juvenile Assistance Program. Resolution 2025-30 is appointing Daryl Menke as the County Health Officer, and Resolution 25-34 is appoint Tom Dagenhart to the MARC STP Committee.
Thank you. Is there a motion on the consent agenda? Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. Move to approve tonight's consent agenda.
Motion has been made for the approval of this evening's consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Carpenter. Commissioner Withington. Commissioner Lawson. Motion passes 5-0.
That brings us to our regular agenda. First item on this evening's regular agenda is 2025-32. Administrator.
Resolution 2025-32 is approving a temporary use permit to use a recreational vehicle as a short-term rental. Director Jones is here to provide information to the Commission about this request.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning Director. So this is a request to use an RV as a short-term rental. It's located at 23600 Sycamore Circle, which is within the Woodhaven subdivision, Lot 13. It's approximately 3 acres, and the applicant would like to use the RV that you can see in the picture from April through October, basically as an Airbnb. We have received opposition from neighbors. This started as a code enforcement case. One of the neighbors called the Planning and Zoning Department. Code inspector reviewed it, determined there was a code violation present. We sent code letters and got in contact with Mr. Parrott through those code letters, and then gave Mr. Parrott his options to move forward. He stopped using it as an Airbnb last fall, but would like to start using it again. The Land Development Code, so this is kind of a unique case. We don't get a whole lot of temporary use permit requests. Typically, an RV is only allowed to be lived in if a person has a permit for a single-family home, it's under construction, and they pull an extra permit through the Planning and Zoning Department, and they have approval from the Health Department to handle that waste according to the Health Department regulations. The Land Development Code does allow the director to send any temporary use request to the County Commission. That's why we're here tonight. I do want to show you the surrounding area. So the lot with the X on it is the subject parcel. It is within, like I said, that Woodhaven neighborhood. Most of those lots are between 3 and 5 acres. And then Endicott Road is to the east. So that is Endicott Road that they have access off of. So that's the basics. The applicant is present, and I believe we have some neighbors that would like to speak as well. I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners have.
Are there any questions of Mr. Jones? Seeing none. The applicant would like to come forward.
Hello, my name is Michael Parrott. I'd first like to thank you guys for seeing me today. Like Kip said, I started this Airbnb last fall. I actually started it 2 years ago, renting out at the neighboring lakes, Watkins Mill and Smithville Lake. I I noticed as I was doing this process that there were a lot of other campers that people were doing at their residence and renting out at the residence. Initially I needed a place to be able to park my camper, so I commissioned the driveway that you saw the camper parked in. Parked my camper there and decided, okay, well, to kind of capitalize on this and help cover the expenses of paying for the camper, I would rent that out on Airbnb. I thought at the time, obviously incorrectly, that there wasn't any regulation out in the rural area that we live in. So I didn't think to contact anybody on that. When I contacted a developer to pour the gravel drive, I even asked him, hey, do I need any permits for this driveway? And he said, absolutely not. You're out in the rural area. It doesn't matter. You can pour a gravel drive. And so I went in and had him do that. When it was brought to my attention by the inspector that, one, my neighbors were not very happy with the way it was being handled, but also the fact that there were regulations out in our area, I began working with the county to try to figure out what I needed to do to rectify this and make sure it was legal. So first I had to get with the bridge and something, I can't remember the development or the people that commissioned that. They came out, they inspected the driveway, they said it was built to spec, so I just had to pay for the permit on that, so I did. So that is a registered driveway now for the property. I do have electrical on site also, and then I got what I need to do to get the waste disposal within regulations also. I did hold off on that because it is a little bit more of a significant expense, just to see if I could go through the permit process to see if it was even possible to continue to rent this out. Like I said, the initial purpose behind this was just to cover the expense. I recently went through a divorce and I was looking for a way to help cover the debt that I was left with. It worked out well renting to the neighboring lakes. I did do that all last year also. So all in all, through the peak camping time, people that stayed extended periods usually rented out at the lakes. Those that were just really looking for a overnight stay as they were traveling, moving on their own or traveling for work, I had people come and basically they just needed a place to sleep. It was relatively lower price compared to a hotel, and it's something out of the ordinary. So I think it as you saw from the picture there, it doesn't look, the previous picture, sorry, it doesn't look bad in any way, shape, or form. Like I set up a nice little setup for them, got a little fire pit and everything, so you can relax in a unique environment while you're traveling. Most of everybody that stayed with me arrived late into the evening, left early in the morning. They were just looking for a place to stay and a place to shower. I did have a few that stayed extended periods, one of those being an overnight nurse, that she was a traveling nurse. She came in and stayed for about 3 days, again, just looking for a place to sleep, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, so she needed a place to sleep in between that stay. And then some people they had family in Kearney coming in town and helping them redo a roof after some roof damage done. So that guy ended up staying for about 4 or 5 days. But for the most part, everybody else stayed 1, maybe 2 days at max, as they were traveling through the area. So like I said, more than anything, I'm just, I was given this as a possible option to see if I could continue using the camper as a short-term rental. Again, I've got a bunch of my neighbors here. I did post on my neighborhood page, so I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anybody. I was just looking for an opportunity to help cover my expenses after divorce. But I do want to try to do this the legal way now that I know there was some regulation behind it. So that's why I'm here for you today. Thank you.
Do any commissioners have any questions of the applicant? I see none. With that, if anyone else would like to make comment on this item, please come forward. As I said before, please state your name, make sure the green light is on, make sure the green is on, then state your name and address your comments to the commission. If we have more people who want to, if you could kind of queue up, that way I can see if there are more citizens wishing to speak. So,
Do you guys want to talk? Well, they're all here with me.
okay.
I live right next door to.
Go ahead and state your name, please.
Ray Kendall.
Thank you so much.
Sorry. I live at, right next door. And sorry, I'm not a public speaker either, but I'll do the best I can. You just have to suffer with me. Like I said, I live right next door. He stated that not too many people stay more than one night, but he didn't say that it's 4 to 5 nights a week that there's different people staying there. The 2 times that he hauled it to the campground was 2 weekends out of the whole summer. He also ran it almost all the way through November before he shut it down. So, and he was, because the county planning and zoning called me to close the case or whatever, and I was like, well, he's still renting it out. There's somebody over there today. So, but I'll go on with my spiel. I kind of got some stuff wrote down here. Since the Airbnb started, we've had people in our yard. We've had people walking back and forth in front of our home. They show up at all hours of the night and leave all hours of the morning. My wife doesn't feel safe when she's home alone with our son, and I also talked to a neighbor, and she said the same thing. Her husband works out of state. When people are in the spring and summer, I can't keep our windows open because of the sewer smell from him dumping his tanks. Michael says he vets everyone that comes there, but I have a hard time trusting people, especially in today's world. You don't know what anybody's going to do. This is going to affect our property values and everyone's house around it. All this is going to do is bring problems to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Before you go, do any commissioners have questions?
Thank you.
Commissioner Lawson, please proceed.
I think she
Thank
had a
you.
question.
Just a quick question. How big are your lots? What acreage?
I think mine's 4.5.
Okay. All right. Are the majority of them that way, about 4.5 acres? per
Yeah,
lot?
I think some are bigger, some are smaller.
Okay.
And the picture doesn't show that he has it right on the property line between me and him.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
Directly in the corner between my house and his, so. like,
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
right there.
You want to say something, Bradley? Hi, my name is Stacy Elder, and I live right at the entrance of the Big Loop. So I live on Sycamore Circle, but my driveway is on Endicott. It's the one with the pool you can see. Just a couple of points. Once this was brought to my attention, and Mr. Parrott did reach out to us on our Facebook page, and my main concern is we have a hard time with our roads anyway, with the potholes, number one. Speeding is a big concern. Once I started watching this, I did travel and see what cars were parked at his facility and watch what cars were driving by. Since I'm right at the entrance, everybody has to pass my house. There was a lot of speeding in and out, a lot of noise, a lot of loud radios, which is a concern. I have 6 small grandchildren. We do have a pool. We spend a lot of time there as a family. And I have a safety concern. Yes, he says he vets the participants, but you don't know who they're bringing with you. He only vets the application, not all the residents that are going to be staying in there. So noise is my concern. There was a couple of other, the black water waste. It has been seen that the black water waste has just been run out of tube into the woods, not properly ventilated that anybody can see without going onto his property and visually looking. It's not going into a septic. It's not going into what we call a waste pond, a lolly pond. And those are my concerns. I kind of oppose this action of him being allowed to do this. Feel free to take it to Watkins Mill, take it to Smithville, but this is our neighborhood. This is where we live. The extra noise, the fire danger from having a fire. You can't see in this picture, but the fire pit is out there right underneath the tree. Someone irresponsible is there. He leaves for dinner, to go out to dinner with his girlfriend or wife. The tree catches on fire. There's fire dangers. Nobody knows what's going to happen when strangers are in your small neighborhood. Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
You'd mentioned that the first concern I think you enumerated was a possibility of speeding cars.
Yes.
Do you happen to know what the posted speed limit is that Regal Road?
Yes, it is 25. It is not posted, so it's a 25-mile-an-hour zone.
Thank you.
It's a residential. Yes.
And
Is it 15? Oh, it's 25. Oh, right at the entrance, at the end, at MM and Endicott, but not actually on the circle. There's not a
I
speed
see.
sign.
Is there any other commissioner who would like to ask a question? Seeing none, thank you very
Thank you.
much. Next citizen, please.
Hi, Megan Kibberlin, smack dab in the middle of the circle there. 100% agree with everything that they are saying. This is irrelevant argument, I understand. All of us that live out there chose this area strategically because, well, quite frankly, we deal with people all day and we don't really want to deal with them at night. That is our home. We are very private. That is how we like it. We know every car that comes by us. That is why we all chose to buy those homes. We know everyone that lives there. And when you wake up one day and you see West Virginia, Texas, Florida, you have no idea. That is not why we bought that property. That's plain and simple. So thank you for your time.
Other question I had, I think I'm reading the map correctly, so correct me if I'm wrong, I may
Okay.
be, but is Regal the only way to get in and out of both the circle and the area up there on
Correct.
Camperter?
One way in, one way out.
Okay.
Sycamore Circle goes all the way around Regal, Sycamore, same street.
Any other commissioners have questions or comments for this person, this citizen?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir?
Tom Williams. I'm his neighbor on the other side. With the discharge of his waste, it's just going out on the ground. I have to keep my home closed up all year round since he's been doing this because of the smell. It's just gotten hideous over there, not all the time, but be certain times of the week when he does dump his tanks or something like that. It's hideous, it just stinks. You have to stay indoors, or we've gone as far as leaving the house because it does stink that bad. He's not properly discharging of his waste into a lagoon or into a septic system. Your pictures are very deceiving of where it is. It is only about 20 yards off the main road. It is not set back any very far off the road. It is right up on the road and right in the curve.
Yeah, I think.
Yes, if you look at that photo
Mr.
there,
Jones
that's-
is going to put up a photo if you'd like to comment on that.
Yeah, that photo is very deceiving. It is more in front of our neighbor's home than it is in front of his own. All our lots are pie-shaped one way or the other, pretty much out there. And we've seen people, I leave my home every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. 7 days a week, I go to work. I've seen people coming and going at all hours of the day and night. We don't know who they are. We are a tight-knit community out there, and we take care of ourselves out there and watch our neighbors like we all should. But we don't know what's going on, who's coming, who's going. And I had questioned it before about this, and nobody really knew what was going on. He's not talked to any of the neighbors about any of this. He's wrecked his truck one time, almost into my yard, when he was hauling the camper in and out. It rolled down the hill, camper and all. They had to have a wrecker come out and pull it out of it. The only thing stopped him from going into my lagoon system was a tree that he hit. But the pictures are very deceiving. He's only approximately 20 yards off the main road. And code says that we need a lot more acreage to have something like this. Thank you.
Questions of the citizen? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Would the young man in the brown wish to testify? Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Okay.
Michael Shannon, and I live on the other side of Ray, and I have been out in this area for 7 years. I bought this place because it's secluded. I happen to be one of the few that have almost 9 acres. There's a beautiful creek that runs behind my house, and I have a great deal of concern about what's running into that creek behind my house. And I have big dogs, and I like to let them out because I feel comfortable with my neighbors, know my dogs. But when I have strange people showing up, walking up and down the street, anytime, night or day, I worry that my dog might bite one of them. And that's an issue. I mean, my dogs don't bite, but why am I introducing these people into my neighborhood? And that's all I've got to say.
Questions of this witness? Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Would the applicant like any closing remarks?
Do I need to say my name again? For the
sorry?
record, do I need to say my name again for the record?
Yeah, we have some audio-only recordings. That way they're all recorded.
It's Michael Parrott. Just in response, I, again, would like to apologize to everybody. I wasn't trying to offend. I wasn't trying to do anything to make any of my neighbors upset. I've got to live here forever also. I moved out here, same as everybody else, try to keep to myself. I did end up messaging Ray after this all got brought up as a concern and let him know that, you know, the reason I was doing this. I think if I can get through another year of rental, I can bring the payment down on the camper enough to be able to be value versus loan and be able to sell the camper. That's my ultimate goal, so it doesn't ruin my financial state. To the comments about the runoff, like I said originally, I ran 300 foot of PVC straight into my lagoon. So it does dump into the lagoon. I had no idea that you had to filter. I don't know how the plumbing works in a lagoon. I've never lived on a lagoon before. I thought everything in my house drained into that and it just settled, toilet paper and all. After this all was brought up, I did get a hold of Clay County Health Department, who ultimately referred me to whoever's in charge of the rural areas, and she let me know that it does have to filter through a septic system. Like I said, I do have a licensed and plumber ready to run all that into my septic system. I am allowed, or according to her, I'm allowed to run that in so that it wouldn't cause any excess odor. Lagoons, I mean, I've heard a couple of my neighbors comment about the smell. I've lived here for about 3 years, almost 3 years now. Before I ever drained a single black tank on this, I smelled lagoon smell, depending on the way the wind blew. So I feel like that's the smell that we're smelling there, not the fact that I'm draining, you know, shower water, which is 90% of what is drained through that. But like I said, that is a moot point because it will be run into the septic system regardless. I mean, that I was just holding off on better weather and permit pending. And then also, like, just to the comments of the position of the camper, I was looking for an initial place just to park the camper. I didn't want to just park it in my grass like I have seen many of our neighbors do. We've got a couple campers that the grass has made its way up to the base of the camper and overgrown the ground has overtaken the wheels. You can't even see the wheels because the camper hasn't moved in probably 15 years. I didn't want to do that because I don't like that as far as the look of the value of the property. Like I'm invested in this property also. So I wanted to do something that drive cost me $2,900 to pour. Obviously I didn't know in advance, but I found out later it is within county code. I mean, everything's within code where it is. That'll, pending approval or not approval of short-term rental, my camper's still gonna sit there. I mean, that's the parking place for the camper. So none of that's gonna change. It's just, you know, whether or not I'm allowed to use this as a short-term rental. That's what we're here for, so. Thank you, guys.
Commissioner Lawson, did you have a question?
Yeah, I really do. You know, we've done a lot of camping, you know, and when you're in these grounds, I don't care how cautious you are, if you walk by a row of campers, it smells. I don't care. But something that did concern me, you know, you've got that creek that runs behind you. So one of the gentlemen or ladies mentioned the fact that runoff into that creek, I mean, that is definitely an infraction of code to have that done. If you were to put in the facility to bring it into your septic pond, how long would that take you?
A couple hours.
Pardon?
A couple hours. I mean, we just got to dig the trench, run it in, hook it into the septic, a T line right to the beginning of the septic line. I've already got the PVC pipe to run it.
But it's not going through the filtration system like your house?
Yeah, it would hook in at the entryway into the septic, just like my house does. And it doesn't, the thing doesn't run off into the creek. Currently, what I've been doing all summer was running it off into the lagoon. So there is no direct runoff into a creek. The creek's, I don't know distance. It's a ways down the hill. But yeah, no, once I hook into the septic, it would go through the same filtration system as the rest of my house.
How long have you been doing this, did you say?
This past summer at home.
Just this
the year
past
before, I just did the lakes. Yeah.
You did it last summer?
This past summer, yes.
And then now, starting this year?
I'm hoping, that's why we're here, is to hope to be able to do it again, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Withington?
I have a question for Kip. Sorry for making you walk all the way up there.
It's okay.
Hey, does the county have a short-term rental policy?
We do. It's called a tourist home. And a tourist home is allowed or permitted by right in Ag, R1, or R5 zoning, which means you don't need any additional permits. In all the rest of the zonings, you have to do a conditional use permit.
So this is not in that, right?
It is not, because that would be if he wanted to rent out his house on Airbnb in his zoning district, he would be allowed to do that. But because this is an RV, it's not allowed.
Okay, and what was Planning and Zoning's recommendation on this?
We would recommend denial.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, Skip.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, make sure I heard you correctly. So he would be allowed to operate a short-term rental on the property if it were a home?
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So the only question here is around, because it's a camper, and does the code speak to that one way or the other?
The code says the only time you're allowed to live in a camper, which we would consider this habitating a camper, is during the construction of a new single-family home with an extra permit with your sewage approved by the Clay County Public Health Center. And I do want to add that we did forward the complaint to the Clay County Public Health Center on the sewage.
Understood. So under whose sort of opinion is it that a short-term rental, a one-night stay, for example, counts as habitating? Is that the commonly understood opinion in this realm?
That would be my opinion.
Okay. Have we researched the subject at all with regard to how that law is commonly interpreted?
No, the LDC gives me the authority to interpret the code, and that's how I interpreted it for this case.
Well understood, but we've got a decision. Thank you, Kip. Thank you. Appreciate it. Commissioner, could I inquire of the county council?
Yes, sir.
Counselor, got a question for you. Do you have any insight into that question as to whether there's a differentiation made between habitating on a long-term basis versus a short-term?
Not typically. I mean, habitating, I think the typical interpretation would be if you are, staying there, sleeping. I mean, it's actually one that we've used in the caves in the past, in that scenario, that setting. And the long-term nature of it isn't as essential as the fact that it's happening. I would say the typical interpretation.
Understood. So in a camper situation, if the gentleman himself were going to stay there, he would not be permitted to do that under our code?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. For the applicant, just to make sure I heard what I thought I heard when you were answering my colleague, Commissioner Lawson. So the first time you used this for an Airbnb purpose, it was located off-site by the lakes. So if someone wanted to use it, they would go to wherever you had placed it, whether it's like Smithville or that
Correct.
sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. Is there a reason why you decided not to continue to use it in that manner?
I did continue to use it. Ray had mentioned I took it out a couple weekends. I don't know the exact amount. I want to say 6 or 7 over the camping season that I had taken it off site, and those were usually for an entire weekend.
Gotcha.
The reason the main reason for doing it, opening it up at home this past year, was the fact that it was sitting there 4 or 5 days a week. Whenever I went to pour the driveway, I was looking at it, I was like, hey, that's, I'd camp there.
Sure.
So and like I said, there's like 6 other campers in the Kearney area that people rent out at their residence. So I didn't come up with the idea myself. People are currently doing this. It's just, it wasn't complained about, so it's not a problem.
Understood. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Withington.
I would like to make a motion that we deny 2025-32.
A little feedback here.
I might have been mine because I had mine on and then it went off.
Okay, well, it seems to have stopped now, so we'll kind of hope for the best from here forward. Motion has been made to deny, to not pass 2025-32. Any further discussion?
I had
Yes, Commissioner Lawson, I'm sorry, I didn't see it lit up.
only a couple of things, I guess. We're talking about a close neighborhood. I really get what you're saying about, in today's world, you know your neighbors and you value that. You watch out for one another. And you aren't sitting on 20 acres. If you were sitting on 20 acres each, I would say it's no big deal. But when some of you have 4 acres, 5 acres, 9 acres, it's a, all mixed group here. I would have concerns were this my neighbor. A little bit of concern about who does come in. You can vet people, but that doesn't always tell the tale. And I think if the majority of people in the close proximity are uncomfortable, that's kind of a bad situation to have for a neighborhood. Even if after all of this, he decides to, leave the camper sitting there and does the work to put it into a drainage system properly. Nevertheless, he's not going to be living in the camper all week long. So I would not, this would not be something I'd want to approve, only because we put people in positions like the gentleman who is over our planning and zoning, whether it's planning and zoning, parks, whatever it may be, they're the experts. When they give us their feelings on something, I think that should carry the most weight of anything that we do, because they're the experts in the field, we're not. So, anyway, that's my thought.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Thank you, Commissioner. So I do strongly agree with that last point. Director Judd's opinion, I think, should carry a significant amount of weight in these decisions, and it certainly does for me, and agree with that. So I'm a big supporter of property rights. As far as I know, I haven't heard anybody suggest that there's like a covenant in place that precludes short-term rentals. If it weren't for the fact that this is a camper, I would absolutely approve. I understand the concerns around people coming in and out, but the gentleman owns the land without a homeowners association covenant of some kind precluding it. I think he has every right to be doing it. But unfortunately, if the opinion of the county is that that this counts as habitation and habitation in a camper is disallowed, then I personally don't see that I have any option other than to deny the application this evening, and I regret that. Thanks.
Further discussion? Before I recognize to close, Councilor, I want to make sure that I put this in the proper form. So the motion is to not approve the temporary use permit. Is that put in the kind of form that we need to have it in to make it?
Yeah, the motion I heard was to deny, so a yes vote denies.
I knew that was probably the case, but for ourselves and also for those here in the audience who might not be familiar, I wanted to get clarification. If there are no further comments, Commissioner Withington, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson? Yes. Commissioner Carpenter? Yes. Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner? Motion passes 5-0.
Sorry, Kip Jones, Planning Director. So this is a little bit different request. This is a request to use a recreational vehicle during the repair of a home. It's located at 21622 Northeast 150th Street, 3.08 acres, and the home was just recently damaged by fire. This one is a little bit different with the Land Development Code, where the Land Development Code allows the use of manufactured homes, which would be a mobile home, for after a natural disaster, which we would consider fire, flood, tornado, of the house with commission approval. So mobile homes have been approved for a temporary use if the house was damaged for those reasons. Again, the LDC allows the director to send any request to the county commission. I've got the property up on the screen. It's marked with the X. This one, if you know, the Clay County Eastern Parks Maintenance Building is right there. That's Shady Grove Road. And then this is 150th, south of 92 Highway. If you decide to approve this request, staff would recommend that we limit it to 6 months. And if they need to extend that, it would have to come back before the county commission. And I would request that you waive the fee for the temporary use because of the fire damaged home. With that being said, the applicant is present, and I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Commissioner Withington, you're recognized.
So I'd like to make the motion to approve 2025-37 with the 6-month recommendation and the waiving of the fees also.
Okay. Motion has been made to approve 2025-37. Further discussion, Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you. I I suspect I will be supporting this motion, but if the applicant is here and the applicant made their way here, I'd hate for them to have a wasted trip.
Yes, I mean, it's custom, the way I like to work these, to have both sides before I take a motion, but it doesn't, it's not sacred. Please remember, state your name and speak to the commission, and look forward to hearing what you have to say.
My name's Morris Lonson. I am the owner of that land, that property. Thank you for your time and wisdom. And did you have anything else for me to question, concern?
Commissioner Withington, I think, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but.
No, you go ahead.
But please speak a little more loudly so we can hear you better.
Sure, yeah. Is my name on record then? Morris Lonson. I am the owner of the property. I did unfortunately experience the home fire. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to a contractor yet. The insurance company is on top of it. As soon as all that's settled, I can talk to a contractor. I believe from what the adjuster was telling me, they're going to be probably 10 to 11 months on the repair of the house. So they're now in the process of getting the belongings out for smoke damage and cleaning and all that before the contractor can actually go in and do anything to it. So.
10 or 11, yes. Commissioner Withington is next in the queue to come up, so I was going to wait till the
I'm not
gentleman's.
seeking recognition. Jerry just never turned my mic off like he usually does.
No, oh, okay, I'm sorry. So yes, if you've made your statement, we'll go ahead and do commissioners. So Commissioner Wagner?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have shut it
Don't worry
off.
about it, we'll do it. We'll do it.
So the comment that you just made, and I might recognize that you are a familiar face because I think you were looking for the Planning Commission a week or two ago.
Yes.
And so obviously you found them and now you are here. So I just want to recognize your efforts were not in vain. But what you had just mentioned versus the motion, you'd mentioned that they are projecting maybe 10 to 11 months. And when you say that, my assumption is maybe 10 to 11 months before you can actually move back into
make it livable again.
Got it. And so we've mentioned 6 months. So I guess I want to reconcile those timeframes, and maybe Kip, I might invite you to come back to the microphone on that. So if it is indeed the case that it will take that length of time, do you have authority with this motion to extend that time to be able to accommodate that?
No, it would come back to the county commission to grant that extension.
Is there a reason why you thought 6 months would be the preferred time frame?
Yes, because I don't want this use as a permanent or extended use.
Sure.
And I believe it helps facilitate the construction or repair process.
Okay. So what we would assume then is at some time before the 6 month time period, we will know where we are at with the reconstruction. Based on where that's at, you would then come back in front of us with another ordinance to pass to extend that temporary use permit. Is that kind of what I'm expecting?
Yes, we would give you an update on how the construction's going, what phase they're in, and then you could decide how, to extend it and how long to extend it at that point.
I assume we would not stop it in mid-construction, so, but I also understand if you want his contractors to move in an expeditious manner. I understand that.
We would like some progress because the RVs are not a safe structure to be living in for a long period of time.
Understood. Is that acceptable, or do you mind that approach?
It's as acceptable as I can, I guess, accept because of my situation. I didn't know anything that was going to happen. I'm just kind of forced into all this.
No, I understand, and I would assure you, as I will most likely support this today, should this come back before us, I will be happy to support it again.
Thank you, sir.
Because for all the reasons that you can imagine. So, okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you being here. As someone who has had our family home burned down at some point, some years ago, it's a pretty tough thing to go through. So certainly you have, I think, the sympathy of everybody on the commission. And I guess the thing that I would just maybe make mention of is be sure and get to us, well in advance of the 6 months, so there is no break. There's no chance that there would be a gap where you would not be in compliance. So we can make sure that we keep it going very smoothly as we can,
Absolutely.
at least for our end of things.
Yes, sir.
Any other comments or questions? Very well. There is a motion on the floor for the approval of 2025-37. If there are no further comments, I believe that was Commissioner Withington. If you'd like to make any closing comments and close.
So do we need to do anything to make sure that fees get waived?
No, we will handle that on the application.
Okay, I close.
Very well. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Withington? Yes. Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Lawson? Yes. Commissioner Wagner? Motion passes 5-0.
That brings us to the final item on this evening's regular agenda. That's 2025-30.
Resolution 2025-36 is approving a sole source vendor number 21-25 with NITV Federal Services for the CVSA system and training for the Sheriff's Office. And Captain Agdarian is here to provide some information.
Please proceed, Captain.
Good evening, Captain Amy Agdarian, Clay County Sheriff's Office. I was hoping Commissioner Johnson would be here tonight because then I wouldn't have to explain what this equipment is. Hopefully you guys have all heard of it because I am not an expert. The reason that we are asking for sole source status from NITV, which is the National Institute of Truth Verification, they are the sole vendor for the CVSA instrument, which is an instrument that measures. Well, CVSA is the Computerized Voice Stress Analyzer, and that is a tool that we use when hiring, interviewing applicants, as well as administrative and criminal investigations. So, not polygraph. Okay, we don't do that. This is a voice stress analyzer, and the problem is you can't get these from, I can't jump on Amazon and order a CVSA instrument, but NITV is the only source that we've ever purchased from, and we want to make sure that our instruments are identical. Pretty good, but I had AI here if I needed to explain it in depth.
I'm sorry, I thought maybe you had a portable device and you were going
Negative.
to be checking our stress levels as we ask questions.
No, I will tell you, no, sir, I do not. You have to have specialized training to read these results, and I know what shape I'm looking for, but I can't tell you what the results mean.
Okay. So. Commissioner Withington, you were seeking recognition.
Do you know what the accuracy rate is on these analyzers?
Ooh, no, but you know what? I will tell you. See, that's the thing. They really are interesting. You should come down and take a look at some of these interviews where they use them. I mean, it is amazing the level of accuracy that they can get, because it's not looking for people to. We're just looking for. We don't talk about lying, we talk about deception. So, like, if you're asked a question, it's going to read the way you answer it, and it's going to be able to detect that, well, I don't know if they're lying, but something here requires more conversation.
Yeah, so I watched some YouTube videos.
Oh, yeah.
And then I even got on TikTok, and my little spy guy on my FYP gave me some nice videos to watch, but I want to make a motion to approve 2025-36.
Thank you for not making me bring this up here.
Motion has been made for the approval of 2025-36. Further discussion. Did you have anything to add, Commissioner Withington?
No, I mean, it seems like it's a really good tool. So.
I guess I have two questions myself, and
Yes.
then I'll go to other commissioners. One is, I assume the applicants are aware that this device is being employed while they are being interviewed.
Absolutely, yes, because what happens is there is a process of interviewing techniques that people are trained in to use this as a tool in the interviewing process.
And I'm also assuming that this is happening in real time so that the interviewer is seeing the readings as they go, so that they have the ability to use follow-up questions to maybe dig a little deeper if they think it's appropriate.
Absolutely, they do, yes. This is a very conversational piece of equipment, yes. It facilitates a lot of deeper questions, if you will. One thing I forgot to tell you, the funding for this instrument, because they are fairly expensive. They're about $12,000 each, but both of these were approved in our $2.5 million JAG grant that we received last year. So none of this money is county funding.
Thank you for adding that piece of information. That's very helpful. Commissioner Withington, I don't know if I turned off your microphone, if you wish to address another question.
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay. Are there any other commissioners who would wish to ask questions?
Can we bring one in here?
Absolutely, but I'm not getting on it.
I feel laryngitis coming on. I don't know. Since there seem to be no further questions or comments, Commissioner Withington, it's your motion. You are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Withington?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson? Commissioner Carpenter? Commissioner Lawson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wagner? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. That concludes our regular agenda for this evening. Next item, we have one item under reports. Commissioner? Administrator? I'm sorry. I don't mean to demote you.
As part of the budget process, throughout periodically, we've talked about vacancy savings. It's come up several times in the budget. And so Auditor Herbert is here. He's done an analysis on vacancy savings. And so he's here to present that information to the commission.
Thank you. Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. Yes, just like the Administrator said, really the point of this audit, it's a follow-up. A lot of this discussion came up during the budget presentation, so I wanted to provide that analysis for the Commission. I do think hopefully it'll be relevant to upcoming conversations on the compensation classification study results as far as, the context of how the county's payroll system work. The audit didn't come without its challenges. We do, payroll in a very unique manner here in Clay County as far as our accounting system and our payroll system, and then the budget and the salary worksheet and how all those pieces work together. But I think these results will be telling for us to guide future conversations. So with that, the bottom line up front is essentially we, on our payroll, including benefits, all personnel-related costs, essentially save roughly $4.4 million a year. The average over the last 5 years is what that number represents. That equates to essentially 92% of payroll budget, again with benefits. So this is the difference between what is actually spent versus what was the original budget. It's interesting to note here, you look at the trend that it reached kind of the high point in the last 5 years in 2023 and then came back down in 2024. There can be some reasons for that. I would stipulate potentially higher benefit costs because this calculation includes benefits. You see a lot of the loggers calculation that the county funds. That percentage has increased in recent years. I would attribute a lot of that for that reason, as well as just, potentially it could be more staff on payroll, filling more positions as to that reason. But that's really the bottom line analysis to keep in mind. But to look at that number, you have to think of the number really in context. And so I wanted to look at the 4.4 million roughly in context of the overall budget. So we looked at this in an operational budget standpoint. We removed transfers, we removed one-time funds like COVID grants, bond funds, and in doing so, you get to essentially what the payroll savings represents as part of our total budget, and it's about 3 to 4% a year. So that just puts it in context. In working with the county administrator and the budget officer, we had questions about what does that mean then as far as what's being added to fund balance, the cash balances every year? And so I put that chart below as well, in addition to what was presented in the audit. Essentially, we know our metric is roughly 80% of total county budget isn't spent in a given year. When I removed reserves from this budget too, these numbers didn't change a great deal. And you can see that the payroll percentage of that unspent amount is about 10 to 20%. So what that tells us, what we conclude from this as a review form of audit, is essentially that there are a lot of other expenditures beyond payroll that aren't being spent that can amount to some of the savings in our year. But payroll is a very significant component of it. When we look at the overall percentage of payroll of the budget, it's around 40% as of the 2025 budget. And so if only 10 to 20% of the savings are attributable to payroll, that also would suggest to me, I believe, that payroll actually might be running a little higher than other categories of spending, such as contractual, commodities, capital, that we're actually realizing some savings as a result of that. And of course, fund balances and cash balances can grow every year by a combination of factors, not just from expenditures below budget, but also from revenues over budget, over what we anticipated. In recent years, our revenues have indeed been strong and have been part of the reason for increasing fund balances. But I put that in context of the budget. Then I wanted to look into, let's look at just wages. So we looked at with benefits. Those are things like, the FICA employer withholding for Social Security and Medicare, the loggers pension, the SURF pension, health insurance costs, workers' compensation premium costs, and the like, all the benefits included. This is just salaries, so we're going to look at full-time, part-time, even uniform allowance, temporary salaries. And so when you put that in, we see that it decreases quite a bit from 4.4 million a year to about 2.2, 2.3 million a year. It's about the same percentage, 93%, but that 2.2 million is about half of the total payroll savings. So that also tells us that a lot of the explanation for our payroll savings a year could be attributed to more benefits so much than actual pay. One thing I wanted to add here too, as far as, when we look at actual salaries, what does this amount to in positions, right? I think that was part of the questions that came up during the budget presentations. I wanted to present this in a dollar format so we could think of it in terms of what is available out there in a dollar number. But when we're over 500 employees, it's hard to really take a calculation because it's a snapshot in time, but it's about 80 to 90 vacant positions we've had in recent years. And not all of those are full-time positions. So a good third of those, 20 to 30, are part-time positions. So you could divide in half to get to a full-time equivalency. But if you think of the budgeted positions, filled positions, that also amounts to about 10% of positions. So it follows that what we're seeing in the trends of payroll savings is about in the number of positions too, total, is essentially what that amounts to. Lastly, I then went to, besides only salaries, I wanted to look into what does this look like at a department office level. So it's interesting, in Clay County, we budget the department and office payroll budgets to include salaries, the FICA employer withholding, and the loggers pension cost. So that just wanted to point that out. The reason we do that is can be a little complex, but essentially when you have the SURF pension, for example, you can have situations where you have credits for unvested employees. So because of that, we tend to centrally budget that and account for it. The same with health insurance. We don't know what plan in particular an employee will pick. So we try to get an estimate, and we get fairly close every year. That's why we centrally budget that outside of the offices and departments. So those are just some of the reasons why the county has chosen this method over the years, just give that explanatory context. When we look at those department offices, it's about 3/4 of the explanation for the payroll savings, or 3.1 million. And again, that same rate, 92%, follows. Finally, I did want to, part of the request in the Budget Commission meetings was essentially looking at, okay, so where are these vacancy savings? And we do have the numbers of those positions, like I mentioned, and then we look at the dollar amounts. The top three on average would be the prosecutor's office, the assessor's office, and the road and bridge department in the last 5 years. So I'll caveat that with a lot of explanations. I would say those are where most personnel are. So that's where you're gonna have most of the vacancy savings. That's what these numbers tell me. And I would also, I would be hesitant to jump to the idea of, perhaps we should, reduce these budgets. I think you run into a lot of issues there. We want to get the full staff in some capacities that we're emphasizing as a policy of the commission. Some of these funds, like in particular the assessment fund, the road and bridge fund, are restricted special revenue funds. So there's really no way to claw back that money except for reducing transfers to those funds in some capacity. But I wanted to provide, those numbers, out of the 4.4 million in average, what we see from the top 3 contributors. The general fund, however, is the one really without restrictions, and that amount gets to roughly $2 million a year that we see from that 4.4 million. So about half is from the general fund, and so I just bring that to the Commission's attention. If I were to give this, a rating of sorts, I would kind of in the middle range of my 5 rating of a 3. Again, just because it would be difficult to essentially, utilize these funds in any real meaningful capacity. Part of the reason we have vacancy savings that I outlined in the introduction as well are that we have unfilled positions that are hard to fill, and we have turnover in a lot of departments. But then also, on occasion, you do have some positions, because we budget down to the position level, that the salary for the employee in that position is below the actual budget. And that happens, I would contend, essentially due to attrition. You have an employee retire, a new employee comes in that position, not at the full level that was earned by that former employee. But we did calculate what is that difference in the last 5 years. We tried to get an estimate, and it's around only 5% of that 4.4 million. So most of this truly is unfilled vacant positions. And so it just becomes a policy question to the Commission of, what to look at for those positions. Do we want to keep trying to fill them? And so I thought that would be important information as you go forward into the study. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for a very thorough report as usual. Commissioner Wagner?
Thank you. Well, I have to jump in there because this is one of my axes, right? So I got to go grind away. And I appreciate the presentation this evening, Mr. Auditor. Don't really know that I have particular questions, just a couple of comments. I think your comments at the end of your presentation are really the ones that at some point this body needs to take up. I believe that there has to come a point at which, if you see consistency as far as what you can fill, knowing that you'll always be dealing with attrition, some of the adjusted costs that come with that, there, at least in my mind, comes a moment where you kind of have to give up the ghost if there are other things that you want to accomplish. Do you go from positions that you can't fill to now going to something that's contractual in order to accomplish something, whatever that something is? I think you also mentioned, and I think rightfully so, the comp study and what comes from that. So I guess at the end of the day, we've passed a budget, so I'll just grind my axe for the rest of the year and see what happens with that. But I just want to point out that this commission has taken actions on dollar amounts smaller than what you've shown. We went to an election because we didn't want to keep spending $600,000 of general fund money filling a hole in 911. We decided that we wanted to collectively, I don't think it was universal, but collectively, we decided we're going to freeze our levy because we wanted to offer some level of relief, which is fine, and so on and so on and so on. And so even though in comparison to the rest of our budget, $3 million may seem minuscule, which I understand. Nevertheless, that's a $3 million savings that if we were to decide that we actually wanted to deploy that in some manner. And your point is well taken also about funds and where they come from, and not every dollar can be used the same way. I get that too. It just strikes me that at some point, we can either say that's okay, and we can continue to do that. I just want to make sure that if that is the way that we want to go, that we understand what we may be giving up in the process. But I'll, for the moment, wait to see what happens with the comp study, what that means, how that affects these equations. And again, I want to thank you for taking my little point and doing some good work with it. So thank you. Thank you.
Further comments or questions from commissioners?
Commissioner,
Seeing none.
if I could just add a few comments.
Yes, please.
I think as the auditor said in the very beginning, if you look at year over year, revenues over expenditures and adding to fund balance, what percentage of that came from vacancy savings or from personnel? And there is a larger number out there when it comes to our commodities, our capital, and our contractual. And so we've talked about that, about how do we start narrowing down on that? Because to your point is well taken, are there ways to free up those dollars that we're not using and do higher priorities of the commission? And as you all know, we implemented a new ERP finance package with Munis, which I think gives the departments more opportunity to dive into their historical expenditures moving forward, so that, I think you will see an opportunity there also, besides just in the personnel costs.
Yes, certainly. Commissioner Wagner.
Thank you, and those points are well taken. It reminds me that this is all about right-sizing our budget and putting dollars where our priorities are. We earlier, and with the advice of the administrator, when it came to what we had set aside for TIF, we realized, well, you don't need to set aside 10%. You can get away with what we now have at 6%. And so I do appreciate that, and just want to continue to encourage us to get our budget as close to how we actually spend and to be more aligned with what we are wanting as far as our priorities. So I appreciate those comments, and again, appreciate your work with this today. Thank you.
If there are no further comments, we will go on to county administrator comments. Administrator?
Thank you. Just a couple of items to give the commission an update on where we are with our enrollment and our senior program. Pardon me. As of this morning, we had 7,614 applications that we've received. About 3,000 of those have been in person, either here or at the annex, or last week we had our first pop-up here in Liberty, and we had a huge crowd show up for that event. So we're pleased with that. We have our second pop-up event scheduled for tomorrow in the city of Smithville. I believe it is at the Mid-Continent Library in Smithville from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. But again, we want to encourage everyone to realize you can come in anytime, Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 here at the courthouse or at the annex, and sign up anytime, and you don't have to wait for a pop-up event. We know that we've gotten some questions, and we've tried to expand our communication about what does that mean when you're going to get notified that we received your application online. They should be getting an automatic email once we've received the application. Some have not got that, and we're encouraging them, look at your spam folder, could have been blocked. But if they have not received it and want to make sure we got their application, please call us. They can call us at 407-3570. Staff would be happy to look up to make sure we have the application received. We're also telling applicants, either online or in person, it's going to take us about 60 days. So just because we have your application, then there's work behind the scenes that has to happen to validate the information. So we're asking individuals to give us about 60 days. Those announcements to those individuals will start going out mid to February, the next couple of months, and and they'll continue to go out. We have received a question that says, well, if you don't let me know until 60 days that I'm missing something and now it's past March 31st, which is our cutoff deadline, am I now not eligible? And no, our answer is, as long as we have your application by March 31st and you work with us to get us any missing documentation and you do qualify, you will be eligible this year. So just because an announcement or a notification goes out after March does not preclude those individuals from being in the program. So I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has. Please please have those questions keep coming, because we want to make sure everybody has an understanding of the program. And then last but not least, certainly the Commission's next meeting is next Thursday, February 6th at 6 o'clock here in the chambers.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is Commissioner comments. Commissioner Withington, if you'd like to start off.
Yeah, so since I wasn't allowed to speak at the beginning, I'd like for all of us to take a moment to have a moment of silence for Dr. Thomas Cummings. He was a great leader for the North Kansas City School District, and we lost a huge leader in the Northland today. So if we could all just take a moment of silence and honor Dr. Tom Cummings. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Lawson. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go.
I'm with Diana. I've been talking to a lot of people. I've been up here on and off this week. And everybody that's come in to get their assistance on 190, or whatever they call it now, they've been so pleased with our staff, as usual, our wonderful staff. They are those that have gone to any of our pop-ups, they happy, really happy. And those that have gone online said it's a piece of cake. So everything's, gosh, we're just rolling. I'm so excited that it's gone so extremely well. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, and I'll make this brief, but I think I talked last year, or yeah, it was last year, after I went to the drug commencement exercise over at the courthouse. I came back just so excited about the whole thing because you really see lives turned around. My gosh, of all the stuff I've done in these 3 years, I have to say that attending that and listening to the stories is the most rewarding thing I do. It was just amazing. Judge Alexander is a saint. He can see in certain people that they need to go through this and that they probably will be a success. Don't know how he does it, but he has this unbelievable ability to help those that really will get in and do the work and become drug-free. Last time I was there, there was a woman there, and I mentioned this last time, I think. She said, and it was so impactful, she said that Judge Alexander saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And she went through the program. Well, I mentioned that in my speech when I was there this last time. When I went back to sit down, she grabbed me and hugged me. She said, I was that woman. And she said, today, she is employed by us in the drug program, and she's helping people. And she's drug-free. And I saw a lot of people there that graduated last time that were there mentoring the people this time. I mean, how rewarding is that we're doing this? Sometimes I look at all the money we spend in the courts and all, and I crybaby about, oh my God, that's a lot of money. But when you see something like this and the good that it does, what a blessing. It was amazing. And next time they have this, I want every commissioner to have the opportunity to go. Because if you go once, you'll want to go back again and again, and it's so worthwhile. So it was a great experience. Thank you, Jerry.
No problem. Commissioner Wagner?
I can't top those two, so I'm fine, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson? Commissioner Carpenter?
Thank you, Commissioner. I just, I know we've taken a moment on several folks who sadly passed. Just want to sort of add to the list. Obviously, the air flight, the folks who lost their lives, some of whom are fairly local. Saw that really sadly. There was a bunch of kids who were figure skater competitors on the flight. Just really sad. Last week I wasn't here, flew out to Asheville, where my brother lives, for my nephew's 4-year-old birthday party. Asheville has, it's quite a sight to see. Still a lot of recovery to happen there from the hurricane this past fall. Obviously, we had the fires in Los Angeles, the country's largest natural disaster ever. It's been a tough run of pretty serious disasters in this country. And not sure what to say about it other than really respect all the people who are out there taking it seriously and working hard and in non-political ways really trying to help their fellow Americans out, whoever they are and wherever they are. And I hope can keep all those people in our hearts too. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. I want to echo Commissioner Carpenter's comments, and I think I would add to those that it is, aside from these particular tragic events, which I think are heart-rendering to us all, I think one of the things that we should take from that is how fragile life is and how precious it is and how much we need to be treating each other with the respect due so that we are able to face those times with a little bit more composure, a little bit more compassion for the people that are going through those times. So thank you very much for saying that. And I also want to say thank you to Commissioner Lawson. I was unable to be at the drug court graduation. I try to attend all those I possibly can, and I certainly appreciate you jumping in there at the last minute. Commissioner Lawson and I have, in fact, worked those together. I say that for two reasons. One is that I usually need someone prettier than me to be up there. It's a much better way to make a presentation. The other thing is, I say that because Commissioner Lawson is totally correct, and that is that I would encourage not just, but many of these types of functions that we have as commissioners, if you can attend, that would be, I think, something that you would find life-affirming, and it kind of gives face and reality to our budget when we pass things. Sometimes it's rather just numbers and columns. This brings it to where it is real people. And I would further say that if commissioners do want to come, I would, sometimes I'm up there by myself passing out the things. Any commissioner who wants to come, let me know, and we will work it out to where everybody, I think representing much of the commission as possible in those types of ceremonies is an important thing to show that it is just not commissioner this or commissioner that, but that we as a government stand behind these highly productive and very enriching programs. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.